Why comfort is keeping you broke. Most people think comfort is the reward. Work hard, build a stable life, get comfortable, then enjoy the results. That sounds logical. It sounds mature. It sounds like success. But there is a problem. For a lot of people, comfort is not the reward. Comfort is the trap, and by the time they realize it, years have already passed. Because comfort does not feel dangerous, it feels safe, it feels earned, it feels reasonable. That is exactly why it is so powerful. Comfort does not attack you, it settles around you, quietly, slowly, politely, and before you know it, your life becomes smaller than it could have been. You stop taking risks, you stop building, you stop pushing, you stop questioning. And without realizing it, you begin to confuse safety with progress. That is where most people get stuck. They are not failing loudly, they are fading quietly. That is the real trap, because comfort gives you just enough satisfaction to stop moving. A stable job, a regular routine, a predictable salary, a familiar lifestyle. It all feels good, but good does not always mean growing. Sometimes good is just another word for settled, and settled is dangerous when you still have more potential inside you. Think about it. How many people do you know who were once hungry? They wanted more, they had energy, they had ideas, they had ambition, then life became easier. The rent got paid, the income became stable, the responsibilities became familiar, and slowly, the fire disappeared. Not because they became lazy, but because comfort softened the edge that made them dangerous. This is why comfort is so effective. It does not destroy ambition overnight, it dissolves it over time. One harmless decision at a time. Skip the hard project, delay the uncomfortable move, avoid the risk, stay in the familiar, take the safer option, wait one more month, wait one more year, and suddenly, 10 years are gone. The middle class is especially vulnerable to this trap, because life looks good enough to stop questioning it. You have a job, you have routines, you have things, you have somewhere to live, you have enough to survive. So the brain says, relax, we're fine. But fine is not the same as free. Fine is where ambition goes to sleep, and that is why so many people stay trapped. Not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack talent, but because comfort makes stagnation feel acceptable, and once stagnation feels acceptable, growth becomes optional. That is a very expensive mindset, because comfort has hidden costs. The first cost is time. Comfort makes people delay the moves that would have changed everything. Starting the business, building the skill, creating the asset, leaving the dead-end path, taking the hard conversation, choosing the uncomfortable but better direction. Every delay feels small, but delays compound, and so do missed opportunities. The second cost is momentum. When you are too comfortable, you stop building momentum. And momentum is everything. Momentum is what turns effort into identity. Momentum is what turns one decision into a new life. Momentum is what makes progress feel possible. Without momentum, even smart people stay stuck. The third cost is appetite. Comfort reduces hunger, and hunger is one of the strongest forces in success. Not desperation. Hunger. Desperation is chaotic. Hunger is focused. Hunger says, I can do more. I can build more. I can become more. Comfort says, this is enough. And enough is where most people quietly surrender their future. Now here is the part almost nobody says out loud. Comfort does not just reduce growth. Comfort also changes your standards. At first, you want freedom, then you want stability, then you want convenience, then you want a life that feels easy. And once easy becomes the goal, expansion becomes suspicious. You begin to avoid anything that might disturb your routine. That means less risk, less learning, less pressure, less change. And if your life never feels challenged, it rarely gets larger. Because growth almost always begins where comfort ends. That is why every major leap in life usually feels uncomfortable at first. Starting over feels uncomfortable. Being a beginner feels uncomfortable. Building something from zero feels uncomfortable. Sacrificing short-term pleasure for long-term gain feels uncomfortable. But that discomfort is not a warning. It is usually a sign that you are moving in the right direction. Comfort wants to protect the current version of you. Growth demands that you outgrow it. That is the tension. And that tension decides your future. So what does comfort actually do? It creates a life that looks stable, but secretly becomes fragile. Because a person who never stretches can't handle pressure. A person who never builds can't create leverage. A person who never risks can't escape dependence. And dependence is expensive. Dependence on salary, dependence on routine, dependence on approval, dependence on what is familiar. That is why comfort keeps people poor in more ways than one. It does not just limit money, it limits identity. It tells you who you are allowed to become. It says, stay here, don't go too far, don't complicate your life, don't make it hard. But hard is often where the real reward is. Not always immediately, not always emotionally, but eventually, yes. Because the hard path usually contains the skills, discipline, and leverage that the easy path never gives you. Think about the people who actually change their lives. They usually pass through a phase where life gets a little less comfortable before it gets better. They leave the safe job, they launch the thing, they take the hit, they learn the lesson, they suffer the awkward phase, they survive the uncertainty, and then the new level opens. That is the pattern, not comfort first, growth first, then comfort, if it is earned the right way. Not comfort as the starting point. Comfort as a possible outcome, that is the difference. So if comfort is dangerous, what should you do? Not become reckless, not become miserable, not hate your life. That is not the answer. The answer is to stop worshiping comfort. Start respecting friction. Because friction is where change happens. If something feels slightly uncomfortable but clearly better, do that. If something is easy but keeps you stuck, question it. If something gives you short-term peace but long-term limitation, reject it. That is how you break out. You do not need to burn your life down. You need to stop confusing safety with success. And once you see that, everything shifts. You begin to understand that the goal is not a softer life. The goal is a stronger one. A life with leverage, a life with options, a life where comfort is a result of growth, not a substitute for it. Because the truth is simple, comfort feels good, but growth pays better. And the people who understand that early do not stay stuck for long. They build, they move, they endure, they expand. While everyone else is still trying to protect the life they already have. That is why comfort is so dangerous. It is not loud, it is not dramatic, it does not look like failure, it looks like peace, but for too many people, it is the peace that comes right before stagnation. So ask yourself one question, is my comfort helping me build a bigger life, or is it just helping me avoid discomfort? Because once you answer that honestly, you will know exactly what game you are playing, and that is where real change begins.